The Legend of Zelda series is one I've always been fascinated with.
With its extensive game history, confusing lore, and funny little character designs, it's something that's always intrigued me.
But I have a problem. I don't want to beat Breath of the Wild. The game is boring. The map is empty. The music's forgettable. The graphics suck. And there's even a game that's objectively better. But you know what? I still love it.
Breath of the Wild was my first introduction to the series. Now 8 years later, it's become one of my favorite games of all time. But in all that time, I still haven't beaten it. And well, I don't want to. Me and the Zelda series go way back. As in, as far back as this game. Yes, you heard me right, Breath of the Wild is the first Zelda game I've played. In fact, I was completely unfamiliar with the series up until that first Nintendo Switch trailer. Now, I had a lot of fun playing this game. I played it constantly for a while, but the way I go about playing games is weird. I'll play it for a little bit, set it down, and then a few weeks or even months later, I pick it back up. And this way of playing is particularly hard for Zelda games. I've played a good amount of every Zelda game, and honestly, I still haven't fully beaten one yet. Because I'll play for a while, leave, and then when I come back, I get completely lost in what I'm doing. That especially happened with Breath of the Wild, as when I came back, I realized I had no items and was completely stuck in the middle of nowhere. I think my main problem with Breath of the Wild, though, wasn't with the game itself. It's how I was playing it. I was trying to do as much as possible, and I kept getting lost, not knowing what path I was supposed to take, and trying to beat the game as quickly as possible. But that's the thing. It's not the typical follow your path and get to the dungeon like every single game before it. It's something completely different. Breath of the Wild takes every previous 3D Zelda game and completely shatters every role that the game's had. Don't want to follow the main story? Cool, you can be a carpenter. Want to skip all the combat and just climb a mountain? Sure, go ahead. Do you want to jump? But the biggest change to this game is the map. You can add all these cool moves and abilities, but if there isn't an exciting world to explore, then what's the point? Here's the map for Ocarina of Time. And then here's it next to Twilight Princess. Pretty big upgrade. Now here's Breath of the Wild. Wait, hold on. Let me zoom out. Okay, yeah, so there might be a bit more to do here. While Breath of the Wild may feel fresh in the 3D form, it actually takes a lot of inspiration from the first Zelda game.
Game director Shigeru Miyamoto wanted to make a game that reminded him of his childhood, of when he would go out and explore rivers, caves, and forests.
And while not being the first open-world adventure game, it definitely pioneered the gaming genre by not looking like this. Seriously, does that even count? However, as time went on and sequels became inevitable, the game started becoming more and more complex. More innovated, more detailed, oftentimes having a more linear aspect to them. While the player had the freedom to go pretty much anywhere they wanted, the story and the gameplay progression was still very linear. There was a set goal of what you were supposed to do. The first game was heavily reliant on the use of the game's manual and map to be used in the game. Like, have you ever even tried a blind playthrough of this game? Like, what am I even supposed to do here? A main drawback with this kind of open world design is that it can be hard to tell a story. Breath of the Wild story, or lack thereof, is one of the game's biggest criticisms. With Breath of the Wild, the story already happened. You wake up 100 years after the story was over, and you unlock memories as you progress through the game. But what if this isn't the story? You could watch all the cutscenes on YouTube, and it still wouldn't have the same effect of actually playing the game yourself. Instead, the main focus is on you and how you interact with the world around you. There's no pressure to rush through the story as quickly as possible. Hyrule was already defeated, Zelda is already missing, and the world has been like this for over 100 years. The townspeople are used to this. For them, this is how life is. The urgency is no longer a factor. Speaking of which, my god are they needy. Can you find my 10 chickens? Can I get some stone? Can you help me make some food? Hey, can you kill this guy for me? The amount of side quests in this game are constantly drawing your attention, from townspeople, shrines, Korok seeds, and other little goodies. There's always something to find when exploring. And this is by design. They decided to rework how you would get certain items, so now weapons break, You can't easily get hearts, you have to get them by getting food, and this small aspect makes people want to go out in the forest to hunt for animals and get stuff like mushrooms to help regain their health. So now, everyone might prioritize something over than someone else. Maybe you want to go off to find enemy camps to get the best items. Or you might want to max out your health, so you spend all your time hunting in the forest for food. Or you might want to get as many rupees as possible to get the best armor, so you go to a mountain to mine. Hell, you could even just skip all of that and go to the final boss. And now you'll die instantly, but it's still possible. Now when Nintendo tested the game again, everyone had their own path and experiences, while still getting the main objectives done. This makes you go off and find your own path that you may not otherwise have seen. The map is so vast, it immerses you in the world and the game itself.
It feels lived in. And often, just like the real world, has a lot of boring patches of land with not much going on.
But with this, it encourages you to appreciate what there is and find the beauty in small things. Breath of the Wild is currently the best-selling game in the series, and might be a reflection of how our interactions with video games has changed as a whole. While the game can be played in any style you want, this is the most passive game in the series. You spend a lot of time just interacting with the environment and taking it all in. And the music reflects that. Every Zelda game has a dozen iconic songs, mostly with these big, bombastic overworld themes, but with Breath of the Wild, lacks that. Instead, we have these soft piano keys that go in and out while playing, and it may even go unnoticed. In fact, the game's soundtrack less resembles a Zelda game, but more games like Minecraft or Animal Crossing. And while looking at the game's main composer, this makes a lot of sense. If you're familiar with old Japanese game developers, you might have heard of Koji Kondo. He's been the main composer for both Zelda and the Mario series from the beginning, and has composed the music for every main entry. But what if I told you he had little to do with the soundtrack of this game? The game's main composer,
Manaka Kataoka,
is the one who went in and reworked what a Zelda game could sound like. She previously worked on Animal Crossing City Folk and New Leaf, and took a slower and more mellow approach to the game's overall sound. Games like Animal Crossing have seen a really big increase in players recently. Stardew Valley, The Sims, Minecraft, and a ton of smaller indie games have all a more laid-back approach when it comes to gameplay. Breath of the Wild actually takes a lot of inspiration on these types of games, being more open on how you progress in the game.
It seems like ever since the world around us has been so hyper-mediated and overstimulated, these type of games encourage you to slow down and really take in the environment around you.
Everything here is interactable. Everything you see in the world can be explored. Instead of having invisible barriers, there's really no limit of where you can go. Until you drown in the ocean. The graphics themselves, on paper, aren't that impressive. This isn't the most realistic tree in gaming, but damn does it fit this unique art style. And even 8 years into the tail end of the Nintendo Switch's dinosaur technology, it still holds up incredibly well, and hasn't been topped since. Until Nintendo made a game that was objectively better. If Breath of the Wild was decisive, then Tears of the Kingdom tore the fanbase in half, as people who didn't like Breath of the Wild were also not gonna like Tears of the Kingdom. That simply isn't true. The game sold insanely well, scored incredibly high, and is a lot of people's favorite Zelda game. Many people also claim how Tears of the Kingdom is everything Breath of the Wild wishes it was, and how it completely replaces Breath of the Wild in some aspects. And I won't deny, I might have thought this at first, as I ended up doubling my playtime in Tears of the Kingdom. But it wasn't until I was a decent way into Tears of the Kingdom I decided it would be a good idea to play through Breath of the Wild first. I thought this was going to be a struggle, as I had just become reliant on the tools like Ultra Hand, Fuse, and Ascend from Tears of the Kingdom, so I thought playing a more restrictive game might have been a struggle for me. But actually, it made me appreciate the game even more. While Tears of the Kingdom may objectively have more content and be the better game, it doesn't fully replace Breath of the Wild. Even though it reuses the same map and is built off the same engine, the gameplay is vastly different, focusing more on the engineering and transportation part of the game. The Zonite devices and abilities are really cool and makes it so you can build whatever you want, completely bypassing the land. Like, did I really need to build this? No, but I did it anyway because it was fun. But with this faster transportation and the addition of the depths and sky map, it makes the main map feel less exciting. Traveling around the world feels more secondary in Tears of the Kingdom compared to Breath of the Wild. But with Breath of the Wild, it feels like you're able to take in more and appreciate the design that went into it. See that big mountain? Well, you actually have to climb all the way to the top and not just morph through it. Doing this, you may be able to find things you may have missed, like this singular mushroom. Oh my god, that was so worth the extra 8-minute climb. Tears of the Kingdom also has a faster way of getting to new parts of the map. Just go up to the Sky Island and jump down, and then glide to a new region, completely skipping all of the map. Now, this isn't necessarily bad. In fact, it's quite fun. But it definitely has a different vibe and way of playing compared to its predecessor. I especially felt this when just exploring new regions and having to make the long journey of walking all the way up there. Finding new hidden secrets I would have missed. And honestly, just enjoying the immersion the game offered. While playing Tears of the Kingdom, it feels more like I'm encouraged to skip these parts of the games. Why run all the way to a new region when I can just get on a Sky Island and glide all the way over there? Don't get me wrong, Tears of the Kingdom is a great game, and it does a good job at letting the player innovate and make the game their own. But also, I didn't mention the best parts of the game. For me, it's the side quest. My favorite ones are the ones where there's a guy holding a sign, and you have to get it to stand up. Yeah, I'm kind of lame. Or when there's a lost Korok with a backpack, and you have to bring him halfway across the map to his friend. It's just not the greatest thing in gaming. But all these foundations of experimentation were set up in Breath of the Wild. And if you wanted a more laid-back, at your own pace, relaxing experience, Breath of the Wild might be a better game for that. And sometimes, you just need a time to sit down and relax, and not stress about trying to get through it as fast as possible, and just take in the design of the game.
So, will I ever beat Breath of the Wild? Yeah, probably. At some point in my lifetime, I will beat the main story of Breath of the Wild. But it won't be to defeat Ganon, to get all the cutscenes, to rush through it as quickly as possible, or to beat it before the new game comes out. I won't beat the game until I play it for the last time. Because the game isn't about defeating Ganon, or saving Zelda, or any of that stuff. It's about your journey you make in the game. Or I could have speedrun it and beat it in like 20 minutes. Yeah, that's possible.